And we're back. Thank you for staying with the show. And this is the second session. And I'm sitting here with Cles Saunders to my left, and to his left, Andy Alberti. In our first session, we were talking about moving the county seat from Tonopah to Pahrump, which I'm wholeheartedly for. Now, I know there must be a lot of steps, gentlemen, on getting this done. But I would imagine the first step, being that local government experience, would be to approach the county commission. Has that been done, and what was the outcome?
Yes, that has been done. And to me, it was one of the worst experiences that I ever experienced in government. First of all, we had a presentation to give, but we was limited. Okay, in trying to do that presentation, we was interrupted more than once, more than 2 times, more than 3 times. But we finally got through with the presentation, basically a cut down version. And that presentation was basically what Pahrump had to offer, the beauty of Pahrump.
Wait a minute. Who was interrupting?
The chairperson.
And that would be County Commissioner?
Was
Lorinda Wickman.
Lorinda, yes.
Joni Easley's partner in crime.
Yes. And,
right. And of course, Miss Wickman, who is bought and paid for by the mine up there and wrapped around Joni's finger, would not want anything to be taken out of Tonopah, because that would be upsetting to Mrs. Easley, who used to be a county commissioner, who somehow got a assistant county manager's position after they redid the job description and literally took stuff out of it so she would qualify.
Actually, she got the position before they redid the qualifications.
Oh, so they gave her the qualification, then redid the job description to make sure that if anybody sued, they could pull up this qualification and say, oh no, she fits. See, it says right here, no education needed, no training, no experience needed, and she was a friend of ours, and she sat on this county commission, and she needs that $95,000 a year.
I actually filed an ethics complaint over the way that was done.
Wow, okay, and I'm sorry, we digressed a little bit on that, but I'm sorry to hear that the county commission interrupted you. Not surprised to hear that, as I'm interrupting you now, so go ahead, take it away.
Well, you know, to me, the commissioners are supposed to work for the people. Okay, all I saw was, hey, derogatory things coming at me, coming at Andy in this presentation. Whether they liked it or not, okay, whether they in favor of moving, I think we should have been treated with a lot more respect as being the people that pay their salary. But anyway, that got me to the point where, hey, I have renamed this lady as Judge Judy, you know, because she, you know, treats us like she's in court. She have no respect for the people that's on the floor, trying to voice their opinion, trying to improve this here particular county or town.
Okay. Mr. Alberti, what was the ultimate outcome of that meeting?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of jump in there because after we did the presentation, and we did the presentation to just show them what we knew at this point, to try and get them to say, yes, this is an important issue for the county. The people should learn about it, and we should put it to a vote of the people to let them decide once they have all the facts. So at the end of the presentation, Dan Shinhofen, one of the commissioners, explained to us that we could get a petition, which would require 60% of the people who voted in the last election, by the way, who also owned property in Nye County. Now, he knows that the county commissioners could actually just put this on the ballot and have a discussion between now and the vote, which would take place next year at the general election. But instead, they just decided they don't want to hear from this. And so they came out with, never mentioning they don't want to do it, they just told us go get the petition. Now, when you think about it, to be able to identify every voter who's also a property owner is no small task. And we know that in Lander County, they did this in 1979. And at that time, they had 800 voters to worry about. We had 12,000 to worry about. And we had actually asked the clerk if she could give us a list of all those property owners who voted. And she said, that's not my job. I can give you a list of voters. So now where do we get the list in order for us to accommodate what the law said? So that's about where it wound up. And then Lorinda Wickman at the end of the presentation told us, Mr. Alberti, we know what's right and what's not. We have all the information and you don't. So I'm sorry, but Mr. Alberti, you're wrong. And that was the end of it.
So Mrs. Wickman had all the facts, is what she stated, and all the facts being it would save the budget probably about $500,000 total, moving the county seat here and including shutting down the jail up there so that we don't duplicate services, which is one of the main reasons why they wanted to take away the town board, because we were duplicating services here in the town of Pahrump. In addition, and Mr. Brasky, Commissioner Brasky stated this, the town board was not allowing the citizens their constitutional right of free speech, which it sounds like they didn't offer you guys that same courtesy in your presentation.
That's exactly how we felt.
So
Right.
Commissioner Brasky and Commissioner Wickman did a 180. It's what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Since they're in charge, they are dictators and they want to control.
Exactly.
Along with Commissioner Schimhofen too, and I'm sure Commissioner Dumas, I'm sorry, Commissioner Cox, and I can't think of the other guy's name.
Carboni?
Carboni, Commissioner Carboni probably didn't have anything really to say, or may have even been agreeing with you on this move.
I think they do agree. I wanted to throw something else out here. There's an NRS that has to do with the conduct of meetings.
And just for the sake, an NRS is a Nevada Revised Statute. It's the law in the state of Nevada. Go ahead, Mr. Alberti.
And it says, the legislative declaration and intent requirements for meetings, and it goes, in enacting this chapter, the legislature finds and declares that all public bodies exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. It is the intent of the law that their actions be taken openly and that their deliberations be conducted openly. Now, the word deliberations is the one that I really want to key in on, because it goes on to say the definition of deliberate. And that means collectively to examine, weigh, and reflect upon the reasons for or against the action. The term includes, without limitation, the collective discussion or exchange of facts preliminary to the ultimate decision. That in no way happened at that meeting.
Well, my concern here, in having been the town manager here for 5 years, 2 years removed, I saw the county commission in action. I've seen them on many times not allow anybody to speak, or they sit there like rocks and allow something to die, and therefore they won't be held responsible. Just like the misinformation they put out, and the very confusing misinformation they put out about the town board and the vote. So I think it'd be very positive for you two to really start holding meetings in and around Pahrump at different dates, different times, to get the citizens involved, to let them know that the county commission's budget is $400,000 in debt. And you have a way to save at least $500,000 of this budget so that they won't have to raise your taxes yet again like they just did. Which is an interesting thing, because Schimhofen said he'd never do that. But he's the first one that wants to jump on board and said, give me some money, boys! I want to look good up here.
Let me make another point while we somewhere in this area. Let's talk about the NRS to change the county seat.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, the Nevada Constitution says for any petition, whether it be a referendum, it only takes 10 to 15%, okay, of that petition. And it don't say anything about you being a property owner. You know, that's for, hey, an initiative or a referendum. But now, this NRS to change the county seat says you gotta have 60%. You gotta have 60% of the people that voted in the last election, plus they have to be on the tax roll, basically property owners. Now, what happened? What happened, or what's going to happen to these other people? It seems like we are taking that one man, one vote off the table, and we're dictating And it's like, hey, we're discriminating. We're discriminating on the people, hey, that do not own property.
Well,
Well, there was another issue before we leave Cles's point, and that is this. When they go to 60% of the people who voted in the last election, what's to stop them from going to 100% or 90% or 95%? If this were to stand, they could do that.
Well, interesting thing that I would have the problem with is 60%. They have to be landowners. If you look at the population base in the town of Pahrump and even in the town of Tonopah, you would have to state that probably 65 to 70% of those who voted don't own property in either place. I mean, look at the county commission. There's one county commissioner who doesn't own property in this town. And she got a county commission.
Well, there's a difference between, on the petition, there's a difference between who can sign the petition and who can vote.
Right.
Every voter can vote, but only registered voters who own property could sign the petition.
So you just need 60% of those individuals, not 60% of all voters. You just need 60% of those who voted at the last election who are landowners in Nye County.
Yes.
Okay, that may be, you're going to have to do your work on that. You're going to have to visit the assessor's office.
There's another problem here.
Treasurer's office.
Here's the problem. Some people own it in a trust. Some are corporate owned. Now, who gets to vote? A trust can't vote.
Right. The property right beside mine, where I stay currently, is.
And somebody's going to have to sort through that.
Yeah.
I just don't think I think it's a monumental task with 12,300 voters to go through.
People should be up in arms
knows that,
on that.
and I think the county commission is using that in their favor because, again, and I've stated it before, I'm going to state it again on record, on national TV, Mrs. Easley has Mrs. Wickman, Mr. Borowski, and Mr. Schimhoffen wrapped around her finger. She did it as a commissioner. I saw her, play puppeteer sitting up there. I know for a fact she's done it, and I'm pretty sure she's still doing it, and she's the assistant county manager, which scares me because I know Mrs. Webster's supposed to be retiring in December. So who's going to be the next county manager? It's kind of slim pickings there.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bill, because my question has been for the last 2 months when I found out that she didn't intend to renew her contract, and I think they should do this anyway. Why aren't they putting out feelers to find a new county manager?
That's one of those questions that maybe we can talk about. If you gentlemen want to stick around for one more session, it sounds like we still got some more talking to do and we're almost out of this session. I'll be glad to invite you for another session if you'd like to.
At the kind of money you're paying us, we'd be glad to see.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Pahrump, and have a great night.